Okay, so today's lecture is going to be on segmentation and targeting markets. And to start off, I want to talk about the process for doing this. So this process actually involves 3 steps. It involves segmentation, targeting, and then positioning. And when we think about this, I'm going to skip to the next slide here real quick. We're going to talk about the market. And the market can be split up into different ways, and it can also be set in a frame. So when we talk about the market, say for example, this is the market. This could be Saginaw, this could be Michigan, this could be the whole United States, this could be the whole world. So it depends on how big you want to identify your market as being. And then the segmentation part is splitting this market up into categories. So going back to here, first you want to define what your market's going to be, what area that's going to be in, whether it's going to be geography or whatever you're doing. So you're going to establish your strategy and objectives, which is going to involve doing your SWOT analysis and your competitive analysis, and then splitting up that market using segmentation methods. Once you split the market up, you're going to target which pieces that you want to target by first evaluating which of those pieces look like they have enough customers in them, whether you can reach them, and so on. And I'm going to go into more detail on all of this. And then the last piece is going to be positioning, so identifying and developing how you want to appear to your customers in the marketplace. So those are the 3 steps that we're talking about today. So a market is people or organizations with wants or needs and the ability and willingness to buy, and you're going to decide what you're going to define that market as being. So if you are working with a company that is publicly traded, that market will likely be bigger than if you are starting up a brand new business in Saginaw or Midland or somewhere else. So the companies that you're working with probably are in the United States market or a global market. So that's a lot bigger pie than what we would be talking about if we're talking about just Saginaw. And then a market segment is a subgroup of people or organizations sharing one or more characteristics that cause them to have similar product needs. So what that means is we are taking this market and trying to divide it into segments that look sort of alike. And this is going to look a little bit like stereotyping. But it's really so we can be more efficient with our marketing, so we don't have to talk to each individual person, but we can group them together in ways that make sense. These are some ways that you can split up the market. These are called bases for segmentation or segmentation bases. You can use geography, demographic ideals, you can use psychographic factors, you can use benefits sought, and you can use behavioral types of things. These are not the only ways to split up the market, but these are the most common. So if you are taking your bikes and you are selling them, say, only in Toronto and Chicago, then you are limited to this geographic region. If you've decided to sell in Toronto and Warsaw, then you are taking a bigger market. But this is one way to split it up. You might build different bikes for different cities. You might price them differently depending on where they are in the world. So the cost cutter segment is looking for something that's easy to use and also pretty cheap. They don't need it to do a whole lot of fancy stuff. They aren't playing computer games on it. These are people who are probably using it at home. The workhorse segment is using this in the office, so they're going to be more likely to want office types of software on it. They're going to want it to be a little bit more powerful. So if we look at this, this is the price. So as we go up here, it's more expensive, and as we go across to the right here, we get better performance. So the workhorse market wants a little more performance, and they're willing to pay a little bit more, but still not a lot. The traveler segment is going to want something that is a little more portable. They're willing to pay a little bit more for it. They're looking for around the same level of performance, but they're looking for a benefit of being able to move their computer around. The innovator segment is looking for the latest technology and is willing to pay a little bit more for that. And if you look at the traveler versus the innovator, they're willing to pay around the same price, but they're looking for different things in their computer. So the traveler is looking for portability and the innovator is looking for performance, and they're both willing to pay for that thing that they want out of their computer. The Mercedes segment is looking for high performance and is willing to willing to pay a little bit more for it. So they're looking for the newest and the best thing, and they're willing to pay for that. So this combines the bases of demographics and psychographic information. It will tell us what lifestyle segments exist in that zip code. And you actually have to pay for more information than this. What this is giving you are the top 5 lifestyle segments that live in that zip code. There are more, and it doesn't tell you what order these are in or how many of them there are. All it tells you is that the top 5 lifestyle segments that live in this zip code. It will give you a little bit of information about household composition. So the majority of households in Midland are 2-person households, followed by 1-person and 3-person. The majority are married with no children or other with no children, followed by married with children, and so on. You can go to some other views here. But what I want to emphasize here is what this company has done. This is Claritas and Nielsen and some other companies do a lot of research, so they will survey a lot of people and come up with these profiles of people and then categorize them. So the cruise into retirement segment, there are about 3 million of them in the United States, which is about 2.4% of the whole population, and their median household income in the United States is about $93,000. So they have a pretty good income level. These are prototype details about them. It doesn't mean that everybody in this segment owns a Volvo and eats at Bonefish Grill, but this is going to describe somebody from this type of segment. So they're likely to own a nicer foreign car like a Volvo and shop at certain sorts of places, eat at certain sorts of places, watch PGA and LPGA, that's professional golf, go on visits to Alaska, probably take cruises, and that sort of thing. If we look at some of this other information, there's a map that I can click on that will tell me where in the United States these people are most likely to live. And I zoomed in on this. You can zoom out and see other things. But if you look for these people, you're likely to find them in this area of the United States, well, in this area of Michigan, and then over here in Wisconsin, and so on. So if you are a company and you start out in Saginaw and you realize this is a really good market for you and you want to open up somewhere else, you might look at something like this and say, okay, these people tend to live in these areas. I can open up another location here. Okay, so once you've split the market into several different segments, you need to decide which ones you're going to target, which ones you're really going to try to communicate with the most as a marketer. So you're really looking for whether these segments are identifiable. And yes, we've already identified them, but what we need to be able to do is go out into the world and see if we can tell which segment that we've identified on paper these people belong to. Can we actually identify these people? For substantial, are there enough of them? If there aren't enough, then it's not really worth us spending money to market to a really small market unless there's a big profit margin. Third, are they reachable? Say that we are a social media company that really wants to target baby boomers. Well, if they don't have smartphones, they're going to be a lot harder to reach than target markets that do. Or if we're trying to reach them by direct mail, do we have their address? If we're trying to reach them by phone, do we have their phone number? Can we reach out to them? Can we communicate to them? Can we get their contact information? And then on that note, say that we do have their phone number and we call them. Are they responsive? Are they going to pick up that phone when we call, or are they going to ignore it? Are they going to pick up their direct mail and look at it, or are they going to throw it in the trash? When we advertise to them on social media, are they going to click on our ad? That's something else that we're going to look for. And then the last thing is, are they profitable? So if it's a small market, but there's a lot of money and the product that we're selling is very expensive, that might be worth it versus something that is very cheap and we need a lot more customers to make it worth it. Are there enough dollars in that market for us to justify pursuing it?